you guys. Hello. This is Dr. Richard Jelusich. Did I say that right?
Jelusich.
Jelusich. Okay, Jelusich. That's a really cool name. I also heard you refer to yourself as Dr. J, but Jelusich.
Dr. J, yeah.
Dr. J is really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do you label yourself? Would you say you work at the California Institute of Human Sciences? So
just two sides to what I do. The California Institute for Human Science is a graduate school and research center into mind, body, and spirit. And I'm lead faculty, also chair of the board of directors. And the other side of what I do is my own personal work. I've got my own school called Integrative Chakra Therapy, and it also has many workshops and events. Since I just completed a 4-part series on the calendar in 12, I people to the land of the Maya. But integrative chakra therapy is a form of energy medicine that I founded well over 20 years ago. So I have students and graduates of my own in the US and Canada.
Okay. All right. So I watched a little video that you had on your webpage about, so it's a program where you can just basically learn a little bit about it yourself, and then you can also become a practitioner through you, like you certify practitioners, right?
It's a 2.5-year course, and you can take it for your own personal spiritual development, or you can become a practitioner, and you don't just the energy medicine itself. Let's say if you're already an acupuncturist or a psychologist or a medical doctor, you can incorporate this work into pretty much anything.
So you're an intuitive, right? Like you're...
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So how does that show up for you?
I was very fascinated going back to the late 80s about how we even come to be in this dimension. You know, how is it we're even here? So I started on the chakras at that time, and that became a kind of a love, if you like, going more deeply into my work with the chakras scientifically at the Institute, but also my own work in actually doing energy work and assessments with people in readings and healing. And so found a theory, my own, one chakra dominant than the rest, and that the chakras affect the 4 archetypes of a human being: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So from that, I was able to make assessments of a person's character in this, based on what my theory was. This one chakra might be more. It's like being right or left-handed. There's nothing wrong with your non-dominant hand. It's just you prefer one, and each has one or more of intuitive abilities. And of course, in all people, all the chakras are open. Everybody's intuition is always on 24/7, although most people don't know that. But from there, I was able to write a couple of books on the subject and create a school, Integrative Chakra Therapy, where I would train healers how to make assessments based on chakra dispositions of the people they work with. And then within that assessment is, although we can't prescribe or diagnose, but is to say, you know, here's what's going on and why, here's what you can do about it, here's how to go about doing it, with the guide being, how do we help that person empower their lives?
So does it involve a lot of energy healing, or is it more like physical things they can do, like gravitate to certain colors or work on, you know, certain limiting beliefs about this thing that's associated with this chakra, or is it all of the above?
Well, chakras are not limited. First of all, distance is no factor in this. It doesn't matter. Every Monday night, we offer free healing to the public, and it doesn't matter, you know, on the planet, do it online. But because the chakras control 4 archetypes, the healer acts as a conduit. In fact, you know, my feeling is healers don't really heal. They're just facilitating a blueprint in the person, that the person who comes for healing already knows what to do with some of their being. So the healer then acts as a conduit for this divine energy to flow through them. And it affects not just the physical, but mental, spiritual, and emotional states. So then my healers, they learn how to make an assessment, so that they actually facilitate the healing on the person. Then they say, well, here's what's going on and here's what you can do. The idea is to give the person tools that they can use to empower their lives. And some of those tools might be meditation. Some of them might be exercises. It depends on what the assessment is.
Mm. So in your experience, what tends to be the most like tall tale sign that someone's got a chakra that's really closed or not really worked with?
It's, well, I, for me personally, it's quite evident. Um, but I would say it just depends on the chakra. For instance, a lot of people have heart chakras who are somewhat, the chakra is somewhat diminished. Now, in my chakras are never closed or blocked, such thing, but they can be strong, weak, and most people are dormant, which is not a bad word, but in people they're not awakened. So I've seen a lot of people with heart diminish, especially because stresses that we're under right now,
Mm-hmm.
with all of the uncertainty going on in the world and all the change that is happening. So my healers are quite busy because of that, as is my wife Michelle, as you know. So predominantly, it can be stressors that engage what we call the lower aspect of a chakra. So the lower aspect of our chakra would be fatigue, problems in the body, problems that end up of taking on too much energy from other people, self too thin. There's all kinds of indicators, but we pick all of this up intuitively.
Hmm. So at first you mentioned the consciousness, and I saw mention that you have this super consciousness. Like what is super consciousness to you?
Oh,
What is that?
you're referring to a class just taught at the Institute called Toward a Superconsciousness. A superconscious state referred to as that which is transcendent from an ordinary cognitive waking consciousness. One quality different than just simply linear thinking. So in other words, a higher level of awareness is not imagination, it's not conceptual thinking. It's a state of being that goes beyond just a temporal and linear model. And what healers how to do, they learn how to make these assessments by going into higher states of consciousness, because the higher the state of consciousness, the more you start to see things as they are. Simultaneously, the way that my healers are trained is actually by doing this work in this, they're actually stimulating the chakras, which makes them even more powerful healers, which gives them even more ability to help people on a much greater level.
Hmm. That is that's really cool. So it says I also saw this I don't know what this is, the monotoma philosophy.
Moto, oh yes, he was one of my main teachers. He was the first president and founder of the Cal Institute for Human Science. Now that place is quite interesting because I was one of the students in 1992. There were 3 students and 3 faculty. So Dr. Motoyama, he passed away 5 years ago. He was a realized yogi, a scholar, a science researcher, and he was one of my main mentors in this life. And Motoyama philosophy simply means his vision, his tenets for what he calls a global society. So he's an author of about 100 different books, based mostly on the esoterics or superconsciousness, but also on science as well. Invented a device called the AMI, apparatus for measuring the meridians and associated internal organs, still used as a research device today at HS. So it's quite interesting that he was able to invent a device that actually can interpret the meridian state of the body. And as you know, meridians are invisible channels of energy body that cannot directly measure. So his philosophy, the reason why I started teaching it, as you know, I'm all faculty at the Institute. The reason why I started teaching that is because several of our board members come from Mitsu Jinja in Japan. This Motoyama was head priest. and Jinja means temple or church or view. But when I went over to for the second time, I think it was 2016, I told the board there that because one of the things they asked is, well, how do we know that the new students coming into the Institute are going to understand what the purpose is of CIHS? You know, who was Dr. Motoyama? What did he represent as a teacher? Made to promulgate people in strictly Dr. Motoyama's way of doing things, not like a cult, because Motoyama's vision was for all religions to flourish because they eventually go to the same place. But to assure the Japanese of the Jinja that we would continue to teach Dr. Motoyama's philosophy, even when it came down to, you know, what are the three, you know, where did we get the three different yoga bodies from? You know, how did Dr. Motoyama further the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and inculcate these teachings into a philosophy that would empower the whole human being to a higher state? So if you think about it, the Institute is not just mind-body, but we actually say mind-body. So that means there has to be a qualitative aspect to a research institute that grants masters and PhDs, right? There has to be a way that in academic, they call the qualitative state wellness. It's an academic term that says, how do you measure how awakened a person is? So this philosophy of Dr. Motoyama's is something that I hope our admin, our faculty, and our students will understand, and then basically, you know, they can then take it from there.
And so, like, he physically invented an apparatus that you can see meridians. Like, it's like kind of like.
Well, you have different terminations of your meridians, fingers and your toes, 7 terminations. These are called the say points or the well points. And basically what the device does is it has a little wand that puts a little, I think 1 volt DC pulse, just 1 volt, that's nothing, but it puts a little pulse in, and then it measures the decay, and how that little electrical pulse decays on that meridian is an indicator of the strength or weakness of that meridian. Then an algorithm in the computer takes all of that data together and then puts out information and data in graphic and in data form as to what is the strength and the weakness of the meridians, but all the overall system.
So how do you, like Michelle was mentioning at some point, you guys have a lot of equipment at the Institute where you basically are trying to measure the biofield. How do you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. How do you guys go about that?
Oh, sure. Well, there's a couple there. One is called the gas discharge visualization technique, or device, if you like. It was created by a Russian scientist by the name of Konstantin Korotkov. And basically what it does is it has an electrostatically charged plate. It would put each thumb and finger on in that, you know how the irises are divided into every part of the body, and you know your foot in reflexology is divided into every part of the body. Okay, so it's the same thing with all 10 digits. The tip of every digit is divided into different parts of the body. So this scientist figured out how to put a digit on an electrostatically charged plate, kind of like a Kirlian photograph, and it would take all 10 of these measurements, put them together, and come out in 2 ways. One is to measure the energy body of the person, and then the second, with a filter, measures the physical body. It's a pretty interesting way. Another one is called BioField Viewer, which uses a technique called polycontrast interference photography, or PIP, PIP, polycontrast interference photography. And basically what it does, amazingly, is this software can run on your laptop with your webcam, any laptop and webcam. And what it does is it takes an image, and through contrast, it can actually show changes in the energy field of the person. There's been videos where, let's say, 2 people are doing energy work on a person. And so this live actually shows the energy field of the person changing. And of course, they use like red to discern low energy or loss of balance, and color and green to make greater energy. We're seeing a proliferation of the research into these devices, because we cannot measure subtle energy directly, but we can measure them indirectly. And that's why these devices are important as research tools, so that we can then use the science to show us, hey, look, the subtle energy of the human being is real. This is not rainbows and unicorns. This is the real thing. Yes, is working very diligently as being the world leader in this kind of research and this kind of work. And we are on our way to becoming full accredited. We have our next site audit visit in May of 2021. Western Association of Schools and Colleges hopefully will finalize and approve us full accreditation. So this is a major move for us in this institute.
That sounds like that. I'm like, wow, that's really amazing that you guys have some way to, even if it's indirectly, but study it. That's great.
I've been there since 1992, so I'm quite invested in the outcome.
Yeah. So what's your opinion on, or do you have an opinion on how electromagnetic frequencies affect the biofield? Like if we can tell that there is like some sort of, I mean,
you're talking about 4G, 5G, 2.4
3G,
gigahertz,
or just that, or even just you know, electricity in general, like stuff with a lot of voltage. Like how does that affect our body? You know, like in terms like
it can be very deleterious to the body. You know, one of our faculty members is also a research scientist, has determined that certain frequencies, that the average cell phone or was working at 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same frequency as your microwave, and determined that the motility of your blood is very much affected by having a cell phone like this, you know, very, very close to your body, because people don't realize that a cell phone checks 900 times a minute, 15 times per second. Your cell phone is sending out a signal to check in, and it sends a signal at 2.4 and now 5 gigahertz. So entirely convinced that that form of EMF exposure is healthy, but we do have, even our own faculty, as I said, is researching its effects.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you can do a lot with being able to, if you guys can physically show even indirect effects of the field, and like you guys will be able to study a lot of other things as well. So you do energy healing yourself?
Oh yes, all the time. Just finished a session before we got online today. I have clients all over the planet.
So if somebody like comes to work with you, what's their main, is it more like you're teaching, or you actually are like, what's your main thing that you do for them?
For me personally, it's a little bit of both. I mean, some people come to me with very serious infirmities, and I do a little of both. Understanding the nature of the chakras is to help the person understand their character in this lifetime, what they came to do, what they came to learn. Now, I know to some people right there, finishing what I just said, they may think I'm some kind of witch doctor, but that's not what it is. The whole point is to take some of the mystery out of the metaphysics and to empower the individual. So if someone comes to me, I will make some determination as to what I feel is most needed. A lot of times people come because they want physical healing, like they say I have a physical problem. However, the chakras, the 4 archetypes: mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional. So the type of healing that I founded, called the energy medicine of integrative chakra therapy, works on all 4 of these archetypes. So in a session, someone would contact me, either audio, Zoom. We record it for them, and sessions are an hour. And then if energy work is required, then we will certainly do that live online. Like I said, we also do this every Monday night for a couple hours for the free energy healing for the public.
So is that the Light News Radio? Is that what it's called? Like how do they find that?
It's off of my website, lightnews.org.
Okay, and you stream it on YouTube, or do you stream it on like
on Zoom?
Oh, okay. So they would join a Zoom call with you, and then
yes,
turn their
yes,
video
correct.
off.
They would see it on the calendar page of the website, or if they subscribe to my newsletter, you would see that on Monday night with the link. They register, and then they get in the queue for energy work.
Awesome. Yeah,
It's
that's
our
really cool.
it's our service to the community.
So, and you every week you choose a different chakra to work on, or is it more like a chakra
Oh
healing in general?
no, it's not about choosing one chakra. Let's say you came on a Monday night. One of my healers or myself would work with you and make a determination as to how all 7 chakras are doing. Now, one might be dominant, but that might not be the one that is presenting some kind of issue, let's say, or some kind of opportunity for healing work. So we would make an assessment, because the chakra doesn't just determine physical attributes. Each chakra is possessed of one or more intuitive ability. Like the throat chakra is mostly telepathy, so that means to be able to understand, to comprehend, to be able to articulate. Cannot be. Chakra is more empathy and symmetry. The third chakra is more incisiveness. So if a person is strong or weak in any of these different chakras, to affect perception and which can lead to limiting belief systems. So part of the healing work is to illustrate, look, this is why this is happening in your life, because so and so and so. And like I said, we can't prescribe or diagnose, but when you work the intuitive world, you start to see things as they are. So the reason for the assessment verbally is to give the form of self-empowerment, even if we just did a lot of energy work on that person.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting into the world of energy healing and all of the spirituality stuff for probably like the last maybe 7 years, but no, maybe more like 2012. But I still meet some people all the time that it's like it's like I have frogs coming out of my mouth. They're like, "What are you saying? What are you
I
talking
know.
about?" So how do you deal with that? Like the person who's not that, okay, muggle. I'm gonna call him that, a muggle. Like, how do you deal with a complete muggle?
Well, if you meet a non-magic user, you can say, well, there's a lot of science behind what we do. There's a lot of studies. Did you know there's over 500 scientific experiments proving that human consciousness affects biological and electrical systems? Did you know that there's all kinds of science behind distance healing, validating its efficacy? Did you know the human body emits light 1 biophoton per cubic centimeter, but over a chakra center, it can be 100 to 1,000 photons per cubic centimeter? There's a lot of science that is validated what the yogis are telling us. The problem is it's easy to deny because it's not physical. It's beyond the physical realm. And because it's beyond time and space, we have the most beautiful and most difficult problem at the same time. It really is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dr. Modi, his favorite thing to do was research. He was a realized yogi. So what did he do? He says, I want to prove the existence of the intuition of the spirit. So let's say Uncle Joe passes 2 years ago, then a medium says, oh, Uncle Joe is coming here, and he says to you, and you go, oh my gosh, it really is Uncle Joe, right? So Dr. Motoyama, through his AMI device and other research, was able to establish that there really is a you, a Nikki, in the astral dimension with an astral body that is actually supporting your physical body. Because I'll tell my students, you don't radiate your aura. Aura radiates. Your aura is the Sushumna, Ida Pingala, 7 chakras. It is the biofield that holds your physical 60 trillion cells in space-time, not the way around. So if I encounter a muggle, I'm not going to beat them up with syllables like, well, I'm going to say, okay, well, did you know? You have to be respectful, because people, the real skeptics, are the ones who really want to know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They really want to know, but they don't want to be deluded. They don't want airy fairy, fluff and fold, right? They want to know what's the real thing. So I'm well known for what are called flower readings. I've been flower reading since February of 1992.
What's a
Here
flower
in the
reading?
US, here in the US, Canada, Mexico, Japan, Germany, Switzerland. I've been to all those places. tens of thousands of flowers. Why do I do it? Because it shows this is real. So here's how it works. Let's say 10 people come at a time when we could gather physically. 10 people come who bring a flower that they've held. So then they put that flower down on the table. They don't touch the other flowers. So now after all 10 flowers are on the table, then I sit down. So now I'm sitting down looking at 10 flowers. I have no idea who brought which flower, no clue. So I'll shut my eyes and I'll have a flower and I'll do about a 10 or 12-minute reading and healing on that flower without knowing who I'm talking to, right down to birthmarks on the body and past lives. Why? I put myself at risk to show that through faith, this is real. All have these abilities. It's not that I'm good at it, it's that we all have these abilities. But I think one of the only ways we can help people wake up is to demonstrate that it's real. So I'll go through all 10 flowers, and when I'm done, then if they want to tell me which flower was theirs or not, and I record it for them as I cover it information, they can then use it later. But flower readings have been very popular because of anonymity. No idea who I'm reading for. And therefore, if there's something real on the flower, must be something there.
So you're just kind of taking their biosignature that they imprinted on the flower? Is that like how you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to touch the flower. In fact, I'm doing a flower reading this Sunday, all on laptop. From here to California, going to be looking at pictures of flowers that people have held on the screen because it makes no difference. The fact they've held it's all I need.
That's
now,
cool.
But why do it? Because how to show someone that metaphysics is real? How do you prove it? Gets people to think like, how did Dr. J know that about me without knowing it was my fault? It's not that. It's that this is real. That hopefully the people who come to the flower reading will go away saying, well, gee, I should trust my intuition more, because the spiritual teachers will tell you without faith, prayer and meditation is just yoga, just stretching. Your reach must extend beyond your grasp if you truly wish to grow spiritually. Otherwise, it just becomes academic. It will not yield fruit.
So how many students do you guys, do you personally take on, and how many students do you usually have at the institution or institute?
I think our student load at the institute right now is 72. I have over 500 students and graduates over the last 20 years. Right now I'm taking on mentees because of the distance thing, and we haven't been able to gather socially recently. So I have a number of my own students. I have my own instructors in integrated chakra who can also take on their own mentees. And last night we just had a healer circle where, all the healers can gather and so forth.
Hmm.
So yeah, between the institute and what I do personally, it keeps me pretty busy.
I was gonna say that sounds like a lot of people to go through. It really does. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to put this in or not, but I was just curious. So, what's your take on the 21st, on now this December 21st thing coming up? Since you just did your Mayan calendar thing.
Yeah, that's Nikki. I've been taking people to Charka, to southern Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, many times since 2005 to study the cosmology of the mind. What were they? And that is a very long subject because they were so advanced. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever see a movie called Contact with Jodie Foster?
Called what?
Contact.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Remember when she got on Haddon's airplane, he showed her how the primer would make sense if it was a third dimensional higher order of looking at the primer, then it all made sense.
Right.
That's the Mayan mind. They were so advanced. We are only just now beginning to understand them. December 21st, 2012, the Galactic Center did rise over the Grand Ball Court at Chichen Itza. 1,000 years ago, how did the Mayans know that the that the center of our galaxy would rise exactly. How did they know that Venus's transit? Venus and Earth do this every so often. Venus has its own orbit, Earth has its own orbit. Every once in a while, Venus and Earth align. The Mayans put it at 584 days. Modern science puts it at 583.92 days. How did they know that? So,
Yeah.
December 21st, 2012 was a major galactic waveform alignment where major alignments of planets, stars, and galaxies in the transformation of consciousness. But the actual alignment took place from 1980 to 2017, a 37-year window. So you and I are still in this wave. This like when the bell gets hit, it's still doing this.
Yeah.
For the next 2 years, it's going to be doing this. And that's why we're in what the Mayans called the golden era of inner transformation. So it's not just the solstice on December 21st. It is an entire era that you are living in, because the world right now is more like a chrysalis. Not really the caterpillar anymore, but not really the butterfly either. So we're kind of searching and struggling for the essence of our identity. So what I tell my students is inner focus, outer flexibility. Inner focus, outer flexibility. December 21st, 2012, in the Northern Hemisphere is the shortest day of the year. It's the beginning of, the sun's return to the north. But I think it would be more important for your listeners to pay attention to this era living in and these alignments. The Mayans looked at every day what they called their sacred calendar, the Tzolkin, Tzlkin, where every day was a galactic tone and a day sign, just like modern astrology. And that there's 8 million Mayans still living, and many of them use the Mayan calendar. And a lot of people think, well, in 2012, the Mayan calendar ended. Yes, just like December 31st becomes January 1st. It's just a cycle.
It's a cycle, right.
That's all it is. But it's a very powerful one for the transformation of consciousness. That's why you see such entropy today. So many things breaking down.
Well, I mean, I'm really into ancient archaeology, and I didn't really get super obsessed with the Mayan until I went to Tikal. I think I went to Tikal like 4 years ago.
Oh, Tikal, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like walking around there, I'm walking up to pyramids, and then you could see like there are 60,000. They've only excavated like 20 of those pyramids. There's like 60,000 structures, and this place was bigger than New York City, and it's just completely taken over by the jungle. There's so much knowledge to find, and that's just one. There's so much we have.
Yes,
that's great. It's
and when we're ready. When we're ready, we'll understand it. Because the Mayans knew that we would have to go through a period when we were not ready to know it. And this is why certain people who are archaeologists or astroarchaeologists, as you said, would come along with a order of mind and start to understand the true teachings of the Mayans, because we now have the capability and the capacity to understand more complex levels of being. So as you and I keep advancing ourselves, imagine what else we're going to find.
Right.
Because we're meant to find it.
Yeah, I mean, when the Spanish conquistadors came over here, they intentionally burned their entire, anything they could find on the Mayans records. So this is
the codexes. Yeah,
all the codexes were burned intentionally. But I'm convinced that there are things buried that eventually will come to light. That'll,
Yes, I couldn't agree more. There's Mayan families who still have crystal skulls, who still have codices, and they're holding on to for a time when they can be externalized, when the public is ready to.
Yeah,
that's great that you went there.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I think it's very difficult to go there. You can't go there there's no hotels really around there. There's a lot of hiking. There's no really very easy access with roads, but so it's not really for the if you're not into mosquitoes and stuff, like, don't do it. But it was one of the coolest places.
Yes, that's true. Or humidity.
Or humidity, yeah. or you know, occasional puma or kind of something going on. I mean, there's stuff, but it was magical. So, and I mean, and I just kept on thinking to myself, like, I just didn't really understand how much we didn't know until I was in the center of the city going, oh my God. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, because I have
Yeah.
been to like, oh, Oaxaca, like Mount Alban, and I've been to like Teotihuacan and
Oh
Cabal
yeah.
or Coba. I mean, I've been to some
Coba. Yeah.
Coba, yeah, and
Yeah.
Tulum area, but but this was a whole other, like, this was just like a ruins of like, yeah, basically it was like seeing New York City 1,000 years later if everybody left overnight. You know, it was very bizarre.
I have pictures of Tikal when it wasn't cleared away, and Cheats when it wasn't all cleared away, and Palenque too.
Wow. So
Yeah,
you've been going for a
so,
while.
oh yeah, yeah, many trips. I've taken many people down with a wonderful fellow named Miguel Angel Vergara, who was the director of Chichen Itza for almost 5 years. So we do a lot of ceremony too and meditation. It's not just anything touristy. It's mostly understanding the oral traditions and the codices of the Maya and what were their real teachings. They believed in the same mind, you know, like you and I, we go to India and we hear namaste, right? The God in me recognized the God in me. Well, the Mayans would go and they'd say, in Lakech, Alakin, in Lakech, Alakin. I am you, you are me.
Hmm.
Imagine saying that. Or if I greet you and I'm a Mayan, I greet you tomorrow morning, I say, Bish Ubel. Bish Ubel means, how is your day? Can you imagine greeting people like that?
You know, wait, what did you say? How is your day? It cut out right at that very.
Bix, and then you, and then Bel. Bish Ubel. How was your sacred path today?
Oh, how's your sacred path today? Okay, cool. Well, even just saying I am you and you are me, and I mean, I think that would, if you said that to people all the time, we would really start having a, like, less of a separation perspective, and you know, start. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
that's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe you wanted to talk about or let people know about you or what you're offering?
Well, of course, you know, the Institute is there for everybody. You know, we also have an adjunct called the Center for Lifelong Learning, where you don't have to be a student, but like I just did a 4-part series on the Maya, and I did next year, I'm doing certification courses on psychology of the chakras, past lives, on introduction to energy medicine, and then in my own school, my own integrative chakra therapy, I'm always taking on students as mentees, and we always have workshops and offerings. So, you know, it's one of those things where my type of multifaceted, there's a lot of elements to what I do, but, you know, probably like you know, when we're called to do this work, we find ourselves involved in various things, and we keep it going as best we can. So just like you, I'm in service according to what I'm supposed to do in this life, and I do it to the best that I can.
Okay, well, great. I'm putting all your details underneath here, and any, so they can just go to your website if any new workshops are coming up, and then the Monday night Zoom call they can get to from your website.
Every Monday, yeah, every Monday night from 6 to 8 Pacific time, you can queue up for some free energy. And I also offer my own private sessions. I have, like I said, I have clients all over the planet, so those things can schedule through the website.
Very
Yeah.
awesome. Very cool. Well, Richard, our Dr. J, it has been
Every time.
it has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.